He stared at the screen, not because it was shocking, but because he already knew what it would say. $0. No savings. No backup. No one to call. In the richest country in the world, he was officially broke. Middle-class American. Believed in hard work. College degree. Stable job. Did everything right. Key themes. American dream belief. Normal life bills routine. No luxury, no crime, no shortcuts. The first cracks. Reality begins breaking. Small emergency expense. Credit card usage. I'll fix it next month mindset. Interest starts piling up. The job loss. Condensed example. The email didn't say much. We regret to inform you. In one paragraph, everything he built quietly disappeared. Layoffs. Corporate indifference. No warning. Health insurance gone. The silent panic. Rent due. Groceries calculated by dollars. Skipping meals. Pretending everything is fine. Fear didn't arrive like a storm. It didn't kick the door down. It didn't scream. It crept in slowly, and then it stayed. Every morning, he woke up the same way, not to an alarm, but to a weight on his chest. The kind of weight you feel before you even open your eyes. The kind that reminds you instantly that something is wrong. The room was quiet. Too quiet. No notifications. No messages. No missed calls that mattered. Just silence. Rent due. The rent was due in 8 days. 8. Not tomorrow. Not today. 8 days away, close enough to feel. Far enough to lie to himself. He told himself, I still have time. But every time he looked at the calendar, the number didn't move fast enough. And his bank balance didn't move at all. The landlord hadn't called yet. That was the worst part. Because once the call came, the pretending would end. He imagined the conversation in his head over and over. What would he say? I'm working on it. I'll have it soon. I just need a little more time. All lies. And he hated himself for rehearsing lies before the truth was even demanded. Groceries calculated by dollars. Going to the grocery store used to be normal. Automatic. Mindless. Now it was math. Painful, slow math. He didn't walk through aisles anymore, he calculated them. He stood still, staring at priced eggs, subtracting numbers in his head like his life depended on it. Because it did. Bread or eggs? Milk or rice? Soap or toothpaste? He stopped buying things he wanted. Then he stopped buying things he liked. Eventually, he stopped buying things he needed. He checked prices down to the cents. $1.29 felt expensive. 89 cents felt like a decision worth celebrating. He started choosing foods that would last longer, not taste better. Calories over comfort. Quantity over quality. The cart was almost empty, but the anxiety was full. At checkout, his heart raced. Not because of the total, but because of the card reader. That pause after inserting the card felt like a lifetime. Approved. Relief, sharp, temporary relief. He walked out holding a plastic bag so light. It felt embarrassing. Skipping meals. Skipping meals wasn't a decision. It was gradual. First, breakfast disappeared. I'm not hungry in the morning anyway. Then lunch became optional. I'll just eat later. Dinner shrank into snacks. Snacks shrank into excuses. Some nights, he drank water and told himself it helped. Some nights, he went to bed early just to stop feeling hungry. Hunger wasn't loud at first. It whispered. It showed up as dizziness when he stood to fast. As irritation over nothing. As exhaustion that sleep didn't fix. He learned how to ignore it. That scared him. Because once you get used to ignoring your body, you start ignoring everything else too. Pretending everything is fine. This was the hardest part. Not the hunger. Not the money. The pretending. When friends asked, how are things going? He smiled. Good, busy. When family called, you okay? Yeah, just tired. He laughed at jokes he didn't hear. Nodded in conversations he wasn't present for. Because explaining the truth felt heavier than carrying it alone. How do you tell someone you're scared of the end of the month? How do you admit that checking your bank balance feels like checking a pulse? So he didn't. He became quieter. More distant. Harder to reach. Not because he didn't care, but because shame builds walls faster than poverty. The fear nobody sees. The fear wasn't dramatic. It didn't look like panic attacks in movies. It didn't look like breakdowns or tears. It looked like stillness. Like staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Calculating the same numbers again and again, hoping they'd change. Like checking emails even though you know there won't be any. Like holding your phone with no one to call. It was the fear of time passing. The fear of tomorrow. The fear that no one would. Credit cards maxed. System trap. Minimum payments. Late fees. Calls from unknown numbers. Credit score collapse. IT never starts as a mistake. It starts as a solution. A medical bill. A car repair. Groceries at the end of the month. The card doesn't feel dangerous. It feels helpful. I'll pay it off next month. That sentence has destroyed more American lives than bad decisions ever did. Because the system is designed not for emergencies, but for dependence. 2. Minimum payments, the illusion of control. The statement arrives. Bold numbers at the top. Then, quietly at the bottom. Minimum payment due $47. Your brain relaxes. That's manageable. I'm still okay. I'm in control. But here's what the system doesn't explain clearly. That $47 doesn't fix anything. It only buys you time at a price. The math they don't say out loud. Interest rate 22%, 29%. Your payment mostly covers interest. The principal barely moves. You pay. But the balance stays almost the same. It feels like walking forward. On a treadmill. 3. Interest silent, compounding merciless. Interest doesn't sleep. It doesn't care if you lost your job. It doesn't care if you're sick. Every day. Balance grows. Interest stacks. Hope shrinks. You stop checking the full statement. You only look at the minimum. Because seeing the real number hurts too much. 4. Late fees, when one day changes everything. One bad week. One forgotten due date. One overdraft. That's all it takes. Suddenly. $35 late fee. Interest rate jumps higher. Penalty A appear activated. You didn't buy anything new, but you owe more. The system punishes timing, not behavior. 5. Calls from unknown numbers. Psychological warfare. It starts softly. A number you don't recognize. You ignore it. Then, morning calls. Afternoon calls. Evening calls. Voicemails pile up. Not threats. Not kindness. Just pressure. They don't yell. They don't need to. Because silence and repetition work better. 6. Shame, the invisible weapon. You stop answering the phone. You stop opening mail. You stop talking about money. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much. In America, being broke feels like personal failure, moral weakness, embarrassment. So you suffer alone. That's exactly how the system wants it. 7. Credit score collapse. Numbers that decide your life. You miss one payment. Your score drops. Miss 2? It drops harder. That number now controls rent approval, car insurance price, job background checks, loan eligibility. You didn't become irresponsible. You became expensive to trust. 8. The downward spiral. Lower score, higher interest. Higher interest, higher minimum. Higher minimum, more missed payments. It feeds itself. You're not drowning because you're weak. You're drowning because the system pulls you down slowly. No alarms. No warnings. Just quiet damage. 9. The worst part, IT feels legal. Nothing illegal happened. You signed the agreement. You accepted the terms. You clicked I agree. But you never agreed to losing sleep, losing dignity, losing years of your life. The system doesn't need force. It runs on math and silence. 10. Why most people never escape. Not because they don't try, but because raises don't beat interest. Emergency savings don't exist. One setback resets everything. People don't fail the system. The system is designed to outlast people. 11. This is where our story character breaks. This is the moment he realizes. Paying minimums is not survival. It's slow surrender. The phone rings again. He doesn't answer. Not out of fear, but because something inside him finally snaps. Social isolation. Mental breakdown phase. Stops answering calls. Avoids friends. Shame, hunger. Loneliness in America. Being broke isn't loud. It's silent. Didn't happen all at once. There was no explosion. No dramatic moment. Just a silence. At first, he still answered calls. Friends checking in. Family asking casual questions. How's work? Everything okay? He learned to lie without thinking. Yeah, just busy. Same old stuff. Because the truth took too much energy to explain. Stops answering calls. Then, one day, he let the phone ring. Not because he was rude. Not because he didn't care. But because he didn't know what to say. Every call felt like a reminder of what he no longer was. No job to talk about. No plans to share. No progress to celebrate. Just bills. Just fear. Just the same bad news every day. So he watched the screen light up and fade back to black. Again and again. Soon, people stopped calling as often. Not out of cruelty, but because silence teaches others to leave you alone. Avoids friends. He stopped going out. Not because he hated his friends, but because everything cost money. A coffee invitation became a calculation. A dinner invite felt like a threat. Even saying no was exhausting. How many times can you cancel before people stop asking? He told himself he'd reconnect later, when things got better, when he felt normal again. But later never comes when you're drowning. So he disappeared quietly. From group chats. From birthdays. From weekend plans. Not kicked out. Just faded out. Shame, hunger. This is the part no one talks about. There were days he was hungry. Really hungry. But he still wouldn't ask for help. Because hunger hurts the body. Shame destroys the soul. He'd rather skip meals than admit he failed. He'd rather drink water than explain why his fridge was empty. In America, being broke isn't just about money. It's about worth. People don't ask, "Are you okay?" They ask, "What do you do?" And when you don't have an answer, you feel invisible. Loneliness in America. America is loud, busy, crowded. But loneliness here is different. You can be surrounded by millions and still feel completely alone. Everyone is moving fast, chasing something, winning, posting smiles online. And you're standing still, falling behind silently, while pretending everything is fine. No village, no pause, no safety net. Just you, and your thoughts. At night the noise gets louder. Regret, fear, what ifs. Not enough to cry. Not enough to scream. Just enough to keep you awake. Being broke isn't loud, it's silent. No one sees it. There's no alarm when your dignity starts breaking. No siren when hope begins to fade. You don't collapse in public. You shrink in private. You stop sharing. Stop dreaming. Stop reaching out. Because every conversation feels like proof that you don't belong where you used to. Being broke isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers. You're alone. You failed? Don't bother anyone. And the scariest part? After a while, the silence feels normal. Eviction notice. Life turning point. Rid paper on door. 30 days. No negotiation. No mercy. Eviction notice, life turning point. He didn't hear the knock. There was no warning. No argument. No final conversation. Just paper. That morning felt normal. Too normal. The kind of normal that tricks you into believing maybe things aren't that bad. The sun came through the blinds. The room was quiet. No missed calls. No emails. For a moment, life felt suspended. Like it was waiting. When he opened the door, he saw it. A red paper taped right at a level. Not white. Not yellow. Red. The color you don't ignore. The color that doesn't ask. Eviction notice. The words were bold. Cold. Printed with confidence. No emotion. No explanation. Just authority. His eyes scanned the page. But his brain refused to catch up. He read it once. Then again. Then slower. As if reading it carefully might change what it said. It didn't. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. 30. Not a suggestion. Not a warning. A countdown. No negotiation. No meeting. No understanding. Just a date. A deadline. After that, the locks change. The power shuts off. Your things go outside. In that moment, the apartment stopped feeling like home. The walls felt thinner. The floor colder. Every sound echoed differently. He closed the door and leaned against it, slowly, like his body finally accepted what his mind was avoiding. This wasn't a bill anymore. This wasn't debt. This wasn't stress. This was removal. In America, you don't need to commit a crime to lose everything. You just need to fall behind. He looked around the room. The couch he slept on. The small table. The kitchen with almost nothing inside. Objects he once thought were permanent. Now they were temporary. 30 days. 30 days to do what? Find a job? Save money? Fix credit? Convince someone to care? He laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes, when reality hits too hard, your body reacts before your mind does. He thought about calling the landlord. Then he stopped. He already knew how that conversation would go. There would be no yelling. No threats. Just polite words like, "It's company policy. We understand, but Todd, our hands are tied. Policies don't care if you're hungry. Contracts don't care if you tried." He sat on the floor, with the notice still in his hand. The red color felt louder now, like it was screaming what he had been trying not to admit. He was running out of time. Not metaphorically. Literally. The shame came next. Not fear. Not anger. Shame. The kind that makes you hide. The kind that tells you not to ask for help. The kind that whispers, "This is your fault." He imagined explaining it to someone. "I'm being evicted." The words felt heavy. Embarrassing. Like failure had a sound. So he told no one. Not friends. Not family. Silence felt easier than judgment he hadn't even heard yet. That night, he didn't sleep. Not because he was thinking, but because his mind wouldn't stop, playing scenes that hadn't happened yet. Where would he go? What would he keep? What would he lose? Every box he didn't own became a question. The eviction notice stayed on the door. He didn't take it down. Some part of him needed to see it. Needed to be reminded that denial was no longer an option. Days passed. The number felt smaller every morning. Time didn't slow down. It never does. When you need it to. That red paper changed everything. Not because it took his home, but because it forced him to face a truth he'd been avoiding. No one was coming to save him. This was the moment where life splits into two paths. One leads to giving up. The other, to becoming someone stronger than before. And standing there, alone, with a red eviction notice on his door, he didn't know it yet. But this was the moment. His story stopped being about losing and started being about survival.